A wise teacher once gave his class a very strange test. He handed every student a sheet of paper, but there was not a single question on it. The class became confused. Some students started writing random answers. Others argued about what the test meant. But one quiet boy simply sat there, watching everything. And when the teacher finally explained the test, the entire classroom went silent. In a quiet mountain town, there was a small school known for producing some of the most disciplined and thoughtful students in the region. At the heart of the school was a teacher named Master Leang. He was not just respected for his intelligence, but for his unusual way of teaching life lessons. Students often said that learning from him felt less like studying and more like discovering something about themselves. One morning, the students arrived expecting their usual lesson. Instead, Master Leang stood silently at the front of the classroom. After a moment, he calmly said, "Today, you will all take a test." The students immediately straightened their backs. Tests were rare in his class, but when they happened, they were always important. Master Leang placed a blank sheet of paper on every desk. The students looked at the papers, confused. There were no questions, no instructions, nothing written at all. Finally, one student raised his hand and asked, "Master, what are we supposed to do?" Master Leang replied softly, "The test has already begun." The room fell silent. Some students stared at the paper, waiting for further explanation. Others began writing random thoughts, hoping that was the task. A few whispered to their neighbors, trying to guess what the teacher wanted. Minutes passed. One student grew impatient and sighed loudly. Another started doodling on the paper. Two students began arguing quietly about what the test might mean. A few simply leaned back in their chairs, deciding the test was pointless. But in the back row sat a quiet boy named Wei. Wei did not write anything. Instead, he simply sat calmly, observing the room. He noticed how quickly everyone became restless. He noticed the whispers, the frustration, the guessing, and most importantly, he noticed that the teacher had not said a single word since the test began. So Wei waited. After 20 minutes, Master Leang stood up and slowly walked around the classroom. He looked at every paper. Some were filled with sentences, some had drawings, some were completely blank. When he reached Wei's desk, he paused. Wei's paper was still untouched. Master Leang nodded slightly and returned to the front of the room. "The test is finished," he announced. The students immediately began asking questions. What was the right answer? What were we supposed to write? Was the paper supposed to stay blank? Master Leang raised his hand for silence. "This was not a test of knowledge," he said calmly. "It was a test of awareness." The room became quiet again. "You were not given instructions," he continued, "because the real question was simple. Would you act without understanding, or would you observe before reacting?" The students looked at each other, realizing what had happened. "Most of you rushed to do something," the teacher said. "You assumed action was required, but sometimes the wisest response is patience." He then looked toward Wei. Only one student understood the test. The class turned to the quiet boy in the back. He realized that before acting, it is important to first understand the situation. Wei lowered his head slightly, embarrassed by the attention. Master Leang smiled. "In life," he said, "many tests are invisible. No one will tell you the rules. No one will explain the purpose. The only thing you will have is your ability to observe, think, and remain calm." The students left the classroom that day without a single grade written on their papers. But they carried something far more valuable. They had learned that the greatest tests in life are not the ones with questions. They are the ones where you must first understand the situation before deciding what to do. And those tests are everywhere.